You're listening to Real Estate for Real People, hosted by the Stone Sisters. The Stone Sisters have built an award-winning realty business, and they're here to share some of their knowledge with you. A new episode drops every Thursday. If you enjoy the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And visit www.stonesisters.com for more information just like this.
Hi, welcome back to Real Estate for Real People. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We are going to talk about the market and just give you a bit of an update as to what we're seeing in the market, sort of how last year finished out and what we're really comparing it to. So Tamara, it's you talk a lot about this and comparing this last year or looking at things and comparing it to a time when it was more balanced, which is where we're sitting at now.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Okay, so I'll start with my stats, and then yours I think are equally interesting, comparing 2022 to 2021. But what I've been doing and what I've been working on is comparing to a more normal year, because I think everybody listening, everybody watching, we can all agree that COVID was crazy. Everything went out of whack, whether that was a head of lettuce, whether that was interest rates, whether that was the interest in the real estate market and working remotely. Everything kind of went wacky. And listening to some of the different economists that we listen to or looking at some of the different stats, they're really recommending we go back to pre-COVID times and, not compare 2023 to any of the times during COVID, because it was just so unsustainable. And I think most of us in real estate and other industries could agree with that it was just, they were weird times.
Well, we've never seen a market like that. I mean, we've never seen a market increase to that level that it did, but we've also never seen a market decrease to that same level. So we know that it wasn't sustainable because of those huge spikes. When you see that, it's not normal. I mean, it was a frenzied market really for 2 years. So, going back to 2019, where we're in a balanced market, which is what we're in now. So when we look at a balanced market, typically you look in that is, anything above 12%, 15% of what's listed as selling is sort of deemed a balanced market. And that's where we're sitting at right now.
Yep.
We're still a little low on inventory, to be honest.
We are. Absolutely. Yeah. We are for what, the historical norm for Central Okanagan. And never mind the fact that we've grown tremendously. I mean, how many cranes did you pass on your way to this house here today?
Yes.
They're all over and it continues to grow and people are moving in. So
look at the expansion that was just announced at UBC, a huge expansion there. I mean, and we've, as we say all the time in lots of our podcasts, we've got the airport, international airport, that is continuing to grow, the hospital, and now this big expansion with UBCO. So it's going to continue to grow. It's not doom and gloom, I guess.
No, exactly. So going back to 2019, going back to the last normal market before COVID and like I said, that frenzy that we saw. So in all of Central Okanagan for single family houses, so this is detached housing, in 2019, there were 2,338 houses that sold. In 2022, so last year, we'd had COVID still at the beginning part, then things sort of moderated, COVID started to disappear and our market softened. So in 2022, there were 2,365 properties that sold, a difference of 27. So 27 more homes sold in Kelowna, so Peachland to Oyama, 27 more in 2022 than did in 2019. So really interesting when, the media or what have you are just saying, oh, the sky has fallen and doom and gloom. Not really.
No.
It's not really at all. So big thing that we did notice in December of 2019, there were 193 single family houses that sold. December of this past year, 2022, there were 86. So there was a big change there. In 2019, the 5-year mortgage rates were, 5.34, 5.19, 4.8. Not a whole lot different than the 5-year interest rate today.
Well, you know what's so interesting about that is I feel like we've all forgotten what those interest rates used to be. And it wasn't that long ago, 2 years ago, our interest rates were where they are today.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we've all gotten used to thinking of, interest rates at 1%, 2%, this free money. And we didn't have this for very long. So, and I think that's maybe why we're starting to see a little shift in the market already of buyers coming back to the marketplace.
Yep.
Because I think, we remember these dates maybe now, or maybe buyers are becoming comfortable with it because it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't long ago at all. And when you dig into the facts, which is what you've researched and what I researched as well, and we shared these initially with our brokerage and with our agents, this is more normal. This is sort of what we're used to seeing, and still really healthy. Days on market, the average home was on the market in 2019 for 64 days. In 2022 for single family, it was 69 days. Again, not a big difference. In January of 2019, there were 721 single family houses listed for sale. Today, 862. So
wow,
virtually identical.
And you know what's so interesting about that is it's virtually identical. However, we still feel this shortage of inventory. I mean, everybody I talk to is still saying, well, there's not really much out there. And that's probably, we don't have that number, but our population has grown a fair amount in those last 2 years.
Oh
and
my
the
gosh,
demand for still wanting to be to the Okanagan. I mean, when we look at it, the market was a frenzy, and that market, came to a screeching halt middle of March. But all those buyers didn't disappear overnight. They're still there. They're still wanting to come here.
Yep.
So it's just interesting to look at that inventory and go, well, we still don't have enough. And
there's still not much for sale.
No.
This is my last stat that I'll share with you, because this one blew my mind. When you look and go, okay, interest rates, they were a little lower in 2019, but not way lower. Number of houses, there were, a few fewer, a little less.
Yeah.
But not much different. Days on market, what have you, number of sales. Here's the really interesting one. This just shocked me. So in 2019, the average price of the single family homes that sold in Kelowna. So going back to, those 2,338 houses that sold in the year 2019, the average sale price. Now this is average. So it's not median. I haven't taken out the most expensive and the least. It's the actual average price sold in 2019 was $739,576. $739 was the average sale price. 2022, I was going to get you to guess, but you already know it. But in 2022, the average price of all the houses that sold, looking at that. So again, we had 2,365 homes that sold in Kelowna last year. Average sold price, drum roll please, $1,215,460. And like you and I talk about, the market had started to soften. Things shifted. We were seeing price decreases and an end to that frenzy starting in March. And yet
our prices still remain high.
Well, when you compare to 2019, that's, 40% increase.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I don't foresee those prices coming down. I know lots of buyers right now are looking in the market and thinking everything is still so high. And I get it. When you look at those numbers, you think, oh, they are still high. But, sellers are digging their heels in. Sellers aren't lowering their prices. And I know buyers right now are trying to, of course, recoup some of that or want to make sure that they're doing well in the marketplace. But I think be rest assured, our prices aren't going to drop drastically. I think that's the big component of looking at the numbers in the market. So interesting. I'll quickly run through some of these.
Yeah, well, some of your numbers are really,
they're not
really
as interesting as good as yours. You got the better numbers. It's not fair. Okay, so I looked at numbers and I compared to 2022 versus 2021. And I think really realistically, looking back at 2019 is a much better way to look because you're in a comparable market to what we are today.
Except the media is talking about 2022 versus 21. So I think that's more relevant and current. So I actually agree with what you're saying.
To me. She's just my sister. I'm going to be nice. But anyway, so I'm going to look at this. So let's look at the residential inventory. So when I looked at this is all residential inventory. So this is in the central Okanagan. This is just the information we have on our MLS system. So, things that sold through not MLS, through different resources, condo project that sold that didn't hit the actual MLS system, that's not included in these numbers. And this is all residential, including, when I look at some of these, it's including that single family, waterfront, what have you. So,
and townhomes and condos. You're everything residential, right?
Everything residential. So when we look at that overall, we had 6.5 more units listed overall in the central Okanagan.
6% more, okay.
6% more units listed in 2022 than we did in 2021.
That's it.
That's it. So when we look at the sales, though, we did have fewer sales. So 35% less sales overall for the Central Okanagan for that year. So from 2021 to 2022, 35% less sales. So then when we look at that and go back to 2019, the numbers you were saying, our big year here was 2021. You know,
Absolutely.
It just continued to go on. So, and I mean, those fewer sales, that happened from March till December because the market was really active in January, February, and March. Beginning of March. Sales volume, so this is the overall sales volume, was down 26%.
Wow.
So then we break it up and look into the inventory for each residential segment. So single family homes, we had 18% more listed in 2022 than 2021.
Okay. So that's single family detached housing.
Single family detached housing, 18% more. Waterfront, this was what I found so interesting. Waterfront, we had 10% less listed in 2022 than in 2021.
Yeah.
So you talk to a lot of buyers and you know, lots of people, there's a high demand for waterfront. Well, no kidding, because we don't have as much listed. And that's just showing the supply. We just don't have that much supply.
Well, I remember
properties.
driving down Lakeshore, driving out, you know, to the end of Lakeshore Road or you know, different areas in town along the water. And you'd consistently see a for sale sign. I don't know, every 10 or 15 homes, there's nothing.
No, there really isn't anything. So that, and the numbers are showing that. Condos, which was interesting too, and I didn't think that we would see this, 7% less listed in 2022 than 2021. Yeah. Keep in mind, this doesn't include anything that just went through the market without going on MLS. But 7% less listed. Townhouses, we had 8% more listed in 2022.
Interesting.
So let's cut over and look at the median price. So this one, I did look at the median price. I took out the highest price and the lowest price.
Yeah, so that's a more reasonable assessment than the one I'd looked at.
So when we look at overall for the whole residential segment of the market, again, that's townhouses, single family, condos, you know, lots, anything that's classified as residential, that average price was $780. So
interesting.
Thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is.
So when we look and we break that up, single family, the prices were up 16.25% from 2021.
So I'm going to pause you just for a moment there, because that's not information you're hearing in the newspaper, on, you know, on the net, wherever. I mean, most people don't think that. And I know we're hearing of people say, oh, the prices are really going to drop. They've already started to drop. Well, no, actually, the fact of the matter is they're not.
They're not. They're up. So when and again, I keep going back to thinking we had 9 months of the year in a down market, in a market that was trending downwards, and yet our prices are still up. So prices for residential, that's single family homes, 16%, 0.25. Waterfront. Now this one is, I mean, it's not shocking, I guess, when you look at the supply and demand. Waterfront prices were up 53%. Wow. Just pause for a second. 53%. So if you bought a waterfront property in 2021, you are laughing right now. Call us. Let's sell that property. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Condos. So condo prices are up 16.2%.
Wow.
So
even with all the abundance of supply that we've got coming to market, the prices were still up that much.
Prices were still up. Townhouses, prices are up 15.34%.
Wow.
So if we look at some of that and think, well, there's movement for prices to adjust, maybe. I mean, the prices have certainly come up in the last year. I just don't think that we're going to see it. And what is the deciding factor on that is that we're not seeing substantial price reductions. Nope. Sellers aren't panicking. You know, they're holding their ground and they're staying, you know, where their pricing is. So we saw some adjustments in March and through the summer, but we're seeing those leveling off now.
Well, I think, you know, some of our agents had talked about bidding wars this weekend, and 2 of the agents were involved in bidding wars. And I know we're hearing that in the Lower Mainland, and I don't know if I've heard that in Toronto, but I know Lower Mainland, they were saying it.
Yes. And I think something to note, those bidding wars aren't selling the properties over asking price.
No.
They're coming close to asking price in some cases. But the fact is that the buyers are back in the marketplace. They're buying, they're feeling confident. I think this is going to be a really great year in real estate.
So do I. If you have any questions at all, if you'd like a copy of these statistics or want to question us or chat about it, we're always standing by and would love to help.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate for Real People. If you want to reach out to the Stone Sisters, visit www.stonesisters.com. This podcast was produced by Podigy Podcasts. See you next time.